Hello and welcome to today's Channelcast, 5 Tips for Delivering a Profitable Wi-Fi Service, sponsored by the Channel Company and Mist Systems. My name is Michael Bozie and I'm very happy to be here with you today, but before we get started I have a couple of quick things to make sure that you in the audience get the most out of today's event. Now first, at any time during today's presentation, please do feel free to ask questions of our presenters using the Q&A box at the bottom left-hand corner of the console. Now, we'll answer as many of your questions as we can during the event, and we'll do that during the Q&A portion of the event only. But even the questions that we don't get to today, we'll follow up via email after the event. And the same goes for those of you who are viewing this event on demand, so please do ask your questions. The effort will not be wasted. Now, if you'd like to download a copy of today's slides, click on the Files button in the bottom left-hand corner. And finally, if you have any technical issues whatsoever, please do let us know using the Support button located at the top right-hand corner of the console. We have an excellent program for you here today. Let me introduce you to our speakers. Joining me today are Shane Moulton, partner at Optics Media, Mike Anderson, VP of Channels at Mist Systems, Jeff Aaron, VP of Marketing at Mist Systems, and Gina Narcissi, who is the Senior Associate Editor at CRN. Now to learn more about Shane, Mike, Jeff, or Gina, please just click on the Speaker Info button on the left-hand side. All right, let's get to today's program. Without further ado, let me hand it over to Gina Narcissi, Senior Associate Editor at CRN. Gina?
Thank you, Michael. The changing wireless landscape. When enterprise wireless LANs were originally deployed, each wireless access point was configured and managed independently from other APs on the same network, which wasn't a problem until the demand for Wi-Fi grew, and so did the number of devices. Suddenly, network administrators had to manage hundreds or even thousands of APs, and enterprises had to also make a big hardware purchase all at once for these access points. So then came controllers. While controllers simplified the management of APs, hardware controllers have significant installation costs since every AP needs to be wired back to them. Also, wireless LAN controllers, there's a single point of failure on the wireless network. So when one controller fails, many of or all of the APs connected to that controller fails. So then enter cloud-managed wireless LANs. APs connect to a virtual controller, which is typically located in a public cloud on the internet. Control plane information, AP management, and other wireless LAN services are performed between the cloud controller and the local APs across an internet connection. So firmware upgrades are done for you, and the same configuration can be pushed to distributed locations. With traditional controller-based architectures, customers need to deploy a hardware-based controller appliance, usually 2, one active and one on reserve for high availability purposes, and those both need licenses. So this can be a burden for large and dispersed enterprises because every location may be forced to buy at least one controller. So cloud-managed Wi-Fi, you just don't need that hardware. Wireless LAN controllers, physical appliances, they're capable of fine-tuning at the local level, but IT support is often required at that level. So unlike cloud-based wireless LANs that receive its configuration intelligence from the public cloud through the internet, premise-based, you don't need necessarily the consistently available internet connection the way you would for a cloud-based solution. But so for cloud-based solutions, cloud-managed APs are simple to deploy. You just plug them in the network and they configure themselves. It's really great for distributed networks because individual locations don't need IT professionals or even anyone professional to install them and configure them. Non-technical staff can install them usually. And so you also get a predictable monthly operational cost, so it's OpEx rather than CapEx. So the benefits of cloud-managed Wi-Fi. Cloud-managed Wi-Fi came onto the scene about 7 years ago, and it kind of as a way to address the limitations of controller-based Wi-Fi. So flexibility and ease of setup. If your organization is geographically dispersed, cloud-managed wireless LAN lets you control your entire wireless network from a single interface. In contrast, on-premises solutions typically have to be deployed and separately managed at each location, which is especially hard because many IT teams are centralized, so there isn't day-to-day support necessarily at these branches. Because of this, scalability could be seriously limited. Scalability is another benefit of a cloud-managed Wi-Fi solution. Because your controller is managed by a service provider in the cloud, customers no longer have to be concerned with hardware appliance scalability limitations. And with these premise-based controller appliances, you can also bump up against a maximum number of wireless access points that can be managed on the single platform. So, here's a few. There are many vendors in the wireless space today that are offering cloud-based Wi-Fi solutions. Cisco has Meraki, there's Aruba Central, and Arista has its software-driven cloud networking solution. Some companies are more channel-focused than others, so solution providers might want to consider how a company approaches a channel when evaluating a potential supplier partner. So there are a lot of opportunities here for solution providers in the cloud-based wireless space, especially for those that partner with a channel-friendly provider. You get the monthly recurring wireless as a service offering with a service level agreement, so that's good for partners who might be wanting to make the transition from hardware sales to recurring revenue. There's typically a white labeling opportunity. You make the solution appear as your own, so again, it's a good way to build your brand. And then there's the opportunity to build value-added services on top of the Wi-Fi platform, so you can do things like location-based services for retail customers, et cetera. So research firm IDC projects that the cloud wireless LAN market will triple in size over the next few years. It was about $1.1 billion in 2015. And it's expected to reach $3.3 billion in 2020. So there's definitely room for partners to consider adding cloud-managed Wi-Fi to their repertoires if they aren't already, or evaluate channel-friendly providers that are already on the scene. So now I'll turn it over to Jeff Aaron, VP of Marketing for Mist Systems.
Excellent, thank you. Let's advance here real quickly. As Gina mentioned, thanks Gina for handing that off. Mist is a relatively newer entry into the wireless networking space. Been doing this for going on about 15 months, 2 years right now with tremendous success. And one of the things that we wanted to chat through here is really why we entered the market. Given the fact that there are some mature players, we saw a great demand for changes and improvement in a couple areas, primarily around using more modern architectures and around using things like artificial intelligence in the cloud, with the ultimate end game of being able to deliver wireless better as a service that's more predictable and reliable and measurable, as well as additional location services on top of that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mist solution, and then we have Shane Moulton, who's going to come in and talk about how he specifically has been able to implement this in his environment over at Optics Media. But as we mentioned, there's probably two primary areas where Mist came into being and where we can help service providers go out and improve their value to your end users. The first is around, for lack of a better statement, is to put an end to mediocre Wi-Fi. We've been in the wireless space for quite a bit of time right now, and we kind of know how things work. And one of the impetuses for creating this company is that when you deploy a wireless network, you know when the access points are up, you know when the network is up, but you really don't have visibility into the user experience itself. And so we wanted to take a step back and say, up is not the same as good. So how do we create a more user-centric wireless LAN approach that our partners actually can deliver a Wi-Fi service that isn't just more predictable and reliable using things like machine learning, but also is more measurable. So you actually know exactly what the user level experience is in terms of how long does it take them to connect, what throughput are they getting, are they having roaming issues. So letting you step into the experience of your users and actually offer SLEs, service level expectations, that you can actually translate into SLAs that can drive a more profitable and a differentiated services on the Wi-Fi side. On top of that, though, it's not just about bringing Wi-Fi into the new modern smart device era. It's also about building new location services on top of your wireless network so you can actually differentiate and provide more value. The fact of the matter is we're dealing in a world right now where mobile users expect personalized location-based experiences. Their Google Maps gives them directions, their apps know where they are and can do contextual services. The fact of the matter is all of our phones are ready to support new indoor location services like Bluetooth with Apple iBeacon and Google Eddystone. The problem to date has been the infrastructure. It's been very difficult to deploy and scale and manage Bluetooth location services because they've relied on battery-powered beacons to date, which have to be glued to a wall and have to be managed, which is not a very scalable solution. So what we're going to show you is actually by eliminating the reliance on beacons and manual calibration and moving that into the same infrastructure that's being used for Wi-Fi and even IoT, you as an MSP can have a more profitable and more cost-reduced solution for doing not just Wi-Fi, but also doing high-powered indoor location services. Okay, so again, we often get asked, why, Mist, why would you kind of wade waters into a crowded market, and why would an MSP who's working with one of those other vendors that Gina mentioned, switch to a more modern solution? And I'd like to give my perspective on that a little bit. So actually, I was at Airspace in 2003 when there was a big inflection point in the Wi-Fi industry. That's when Intel came out with Centrino, and that's when Wi-Fi was now shipping on every laptop, every device. You didn't have to plug in a PCMCIA slot anymore. That's when you would show up at Starbucks and McDonald's and Wi-Fi was there. And all of a sudden, there was a huge innovation in the industry. Airspace came out with their controllers after Trapeze and Aruba. Shortly after, Ruckus came out, Aerohive, and then Meraki was the first generation cloud. The interesting thing about every one of those platforms is they were all built prior to 2007. So they were built actually prior to the smartphone even existing. The iPhone and Android didn't even exist at that time. And they were built prior to the modern cloud. Amazon did not really ship until late 2006, early 2007. So to say that all these platforms were designed for the smart device era using the latest wireless, cloud, and AI technology is inherently just not attainable because they were all built prior to those technologies even existing. So number one is, again, we felt that there was a hole in the market for us and our partners to go out and sell this next generation Wi-Fi solution using the latest AI, cloud, and wireless technology. But then in addition to that, we feel that there's a huge inflection point right now in the industry, just like 2003, around Bluetooth. And that's a huge opportunity for our partners. Again, as we mentioned, the Bluetooth 5.0 standard is now out. Apple and Android have embedded beaconing functionality in their phones, and users are ready. So if Mist and our partners can solve the infrastructure side, there is a huge market opportunity for this new wireless network where Wi-Fi and BLE converge. So as Gina mentioned, just the cloud piece alone for Wi-Fi is expected to triple to become $3.3 billion in the next 2 years. And if you talk to Gartner, the BLE piece is another $2-3 billion on top of that. So there's a $5, $6, even $7, $8 billion market if you count the applications that sit on top of the BLE itself for Mist partners to go after. So there's a lot of opportunity here to make a lot of money with a new wireless network solution. What do we sell? So we do sell access points that go on-premise. There's our AP family, which is both Wi-Fi and BLE and IoT altogether, and our BT family, which is just Bluetooth. So if there's an existing wireless infrastructure, you can actually daisy chain the BTs on top of that just to add Bluetooth. Or if there's just a greenfield Bluetooth account, the BT is great for that. Or again, if you want to get it all together, there's the AP family. More important, every single thing we do is 100% operated and managed in the cloud. And the interesting thing, though, is this is not like a first-generation cloud like Meraki or some other vendors where what they did is virtualize the controller and moved it into distributed data centers. This is a purpose-built modern cloud. So we actually looked at how Netflix and LinkedIn and Google and Amazon built their clouds using big data and other technologies, machine learning technologies, and those are the same technologies we're using. Containers, microservices, Storm, Spark, Kafka for distribution, agility, resiliency. So if someone fat fingers something, it doesn't take down the whole network or you don't lose data. This is a modern cloud. And then on top of that, the real Mist secret sauce is all about AI. We like to say AI is in the air. So we're using machine learning for things like event correlation, for easy root cause analysis, for high accuracy location services. That's all built into our platform. On our platform, as we said, it's all about deploying wireless as a service. So today there's actually 3 services we offer, and there's always more coming. And also, if folks decide to white label, you can run whatever services you want in your own environment on the Mist platform. But the 3 services we offer today is Wi-Fi assurance. So again, that's all about making Wi-Fi predictable, reliable, and measurable. We have a BLE engagement service. So that's all about pushing information to users on premise using their phones in an application. So for example, pushing turn-by-turn directions when someone shows up on site in a hotel or in a hospital. Pushing notifications, again, when they're on a corporate environment or in a hospital saying free flu vaccinations. Or doing advertising, for example, in a retail environment saying, come get a coupon to Banana Republic or a coupon to the steak buffet. And then asset visibility is all about tracking assets. So if you had a third-party tag on a wheelchair or tracking an infusion pump using BLE, or even tracking individuals, a patient in a hospital to make sure they don't elope off-site, a kindergartner to make sure they don't wander off unsupervised, or even a corporate employees in an emergency 911 situation to make sure when emergency responders come on site, who's still on premise and who evacuated safely. So again, that's all built into our system. It's all part of our infrastructure. That's really what we bring to the equation. On the Wi-Fi side, unfortunately, can't really do a demo here, but we do demos every other Wednesday, so please check in on that. But there's 3 primary things on the Wi-Fi side that we can do that no one else can that really helps you build a Wi-Fi business around us. The first is the ability to set, monitor, and enforce service levels. So we have a variety of metrics, whether it's time to connect, whether it's throughput, whether it's your AP uptime, whether it's your roaming, where you can actually set, monitor, and enforce your own thresholds that make sense for your own customers and enforce them. So for example, you can say, I want every user in this building or in this network to connect in 2 seconds or less. And at a quick glance, you can look at your dashboard and say, what percentage of the time am I meeting that service level for my users? Or similarly, you can say, I want everyone at this customer to get at least 20 megabits per second throughput. And our dashboards would tell you what percentage of the time are you hitting that, but it also will tell you using machine learning we can predict. And you can say that if everyone at that building or that site wanted to get 20 megabits per second throughput, is that a service level I can meet in the future? So again, this whole concept of service levels where you can quickly look at a dashboard, see what level you're offering. You can see which devices are out of spec and are not hitting that threshold. You can do trending analysis to say, are certain operating systems, are certain device types, are certain applications causing problems, and we'll notify that for you. So again, you can now manage Wi-Fi as a service with visibility into the user experience. The next thing we do with our machine learning is actually we take literally over 100 states, pre- and post-connection states, from every wireless user in real time and move that into the cloud. And we use machine learning on that, so we actually give you actionable insight based on that information. So if something does go wrong, if someone calls your help desk and says, hey, the Wi-Fi sucks, you can actually quickly pull this up and say, well, actually, it wasn't the wireless, it was a wire problem, or it was a device problem. If it was a wireless problem, we'll actually do that correlation for you and tell you exactly what that problem was. So was it a roaming problem? Was it an AP problem? Was it a DCP problem or a WAN problem? Was it a device problem? Again, we correlate all those events, and we do machine learning on that across the wireless, wired, and device domains, so you know exactly what's going on so you don't have to chase your tail. And then the third thing that's especially interesting, aside from everything else we do, is you can actually click on a user if they have a problem. You can rewind back in time and see all their events. And if actually there was a major failure, we actually will detect that for you and automatically capture packets and store it in the cloud. So as Shane will attest to, our customers don't do truck rolls anymore. You know, we have all the data stored in real time in the cloud, so you don't have to waste time and money trying to recreate a problem that might not be able to recreate it. It's all there ready for quick troubleshooting. Outside of that, there's other features we have, the ability to set up guest portals in a matter of 5 clicks. We have a great concept known as personalized WLANs, which I believe Shane's going to talk about, where you can have groups of users share assets without having to do separate SSIDs. So in a single SSID, they can share pre-shared keys and share their Chromecast and their Apple TVs and roam anywhere they want while still getting secure access to that. So again, those are some of the things we do on the wireless LAN side that have really taken wireless networking into the next generation and really differentiate us from some of the older solutions out there, whether they're on-premise or older cloud solutions. And then finally, on the Bluetooth side, we've taken quite a different things there to really virtualize the indoor location experience. So as we mentioned, the single biggest thing holding back Bluetooth to date has been a reliance on battery-powered BLE beacons. These are little hockey puck-shaped battery devices that go on the walls or the ceiling every 25 feet. And when you're standing in front of one, they wake up your app, and you're interfacing with that hockey puck device that's right in front of you. Well, we said, let's eliminate those devices, and let's move that BLE beaconing functionality into the access point. So we have a patented BLE antenna array that actually sits in our access points and covers an entire room with BLE signals. So the minute you walk into a Mist-enabled room, you're automatically immediately getting these BLE signals to wake up your application or to push notifications to you. So step number one is to move it into the access point using a patented antenna array. Step number two is we use machine learning to constantly calculate and recalculate path loss formulas on every device, so we're able to give you 1 to 3 meter accuracy 90% of the time in our location tracking environment. And again, from this PoE-enabled infrastructure that you potentially already have in place that's running Wi-Fi. And then the third thing is we have another concept known as virtual beacons that we patented. So if you do want to do proximity-based notifications, all you have to do is put our APs and load a floor plan, and we use geofencing technology just like GPS, so we actually know where a user is on your floor plan, and based upon where they're standing, you can customize the messages you want to send to them. So that's another advantage. In addition to that, we have the ability to do analytics. So you can set up whatever zones you want. You can track which users are in which zone, how long are they there, what is the max and average dwell times, what time of day were they there. It's all built into the system. The last thing I'll point out is every single thing I showed here and I mentioned is 100% available via APIs. That's another value add for our MSPs to go in there and help create workflows, help to integrate with other systems in your portfolio. It's all in there. It's part of our solution. So again, what Mist provides is a new wireless network. We're helping you transition your customers from an old network-centric world to one that's more user-centric. We have things like AI in there to help simplify your operations, to lower your troubleshooting costs, to help you deliver a more reliable Wi-Fi experience that's more measurable. And at the same time, you can add new location-based services on top of that to add more value to your customers, add more profitability to your services, differentiate from the other partners in the space, and also tie in a lot of your other vendors that you may be working with to do location-based services and to build a great ecosystem around that. The services that we sell today that our partners can sell as well are Wi-Fi assurance, BLE engagement, BLE asset visibility. But again, if you're an MSP, which Mike's going to talk about, you can white label your own solution, and you can build whatever services you want on top of that. But the ultimate goal here is, from your perspective, it's simpler operations, lower cost. But from an end user perspective, your customers, it's about better, more amazing Wi-Fi and BLE experiences. So that having been said, I'm going to hand this over to Shane. Shane is one of our MSP partners. He's been doing some great things, and I'll let him talk to you about his experiences in the real world.
Hi, thank you, Jeff. Hey, I've been in this market for about 5, 6 years now. I kind of fell into the market by accident. I was working with the BYU Idaho in Rexburg, Idaho, and they were having a number of problems with the wireless and the internet out into the bedroom and all the various student apartment complexes throughout the market. And they said, we need to have a better mousetrap in the area. So I worked at trying to do that. We tried to make a great wireless and wired solution for all the students at BYU Idaho. And I think we turned out a really good market, because we turned out to get 90% of the market 3 years later. And we found that not only Rexburg and BYU Idaho needed it, but all throughout the United States needed it. And so we have wireless networks really from Raleigh, North Carolina, to Sacramento, California, to South Bend, Indiana, throughout Texas, and a number of places throughout in between. Our primary service market is student housing in these markets. I think we chose the worst demographic, because there's nothing like a college student to expect perfection out of everyone else but themselves. They demand having 100% or very close to it wireless internet, and when it doesn't perform the way that they think it does, they're going to let you know immediately. So some of the things that we've learned to make it work really well is when we go out to a project to discover how the internet or how we're going to build that network, is we need to understand what type of structure. Is it going to be new build, which nobody knows how the wireless is really going to work until the building is going to be built and we fix it, or we have an existing structure where there's lots of wire or there may not be any wire, and it's hardly ever in the right spot. So you need to understand the environment that you're going in. If they've got an existing wireless LAN, a lot of times you can use some of that wire in the wall, but you may need to move it to different spots. So with existing structures, the whole idea that they're never going to be vacant with an existing structure, so you've got to learn how to get in and get out and have it as quiet as possible. One of the things that we do is we bring in a whole crew of guys to do that. We never go into an apartment without having at least 2 people there, just for protection nowadays, so that you know exactly, that somebody's watching the other person and you're not accused of doing anything. But you want to know how many access points are in there right now. As a general rule on an existing build, we never want wireless to go through more than 2 walls without adding another access point. In student apartments, that means that we put an access point in every unit, which is a little bit more than the standard right now, but again, we do want to limit truck rolls wherever we can. With new builds, you want to become the on-site supervisor's best friend, because they're going to tell you how these buildings are built, how things are put together, so that you can make sure that you're putting those access points in the right spot. Because if it's not, you're going to have dead areas, and if you have dead areas, you're going to have students that are going to be, or users that are going to be complaining. You want to also understand the management. Make sure that the management knows that you're on their team, that it's a team process, and that everybody's going to have ownership in the rollout of this new internet service or managed service provider solution. And then you want to make sure that you train the management on how to inform the tenants how they can get help. Those are all the things that help streamline this process. Second of all, one of the things that really got us excited about Mist was when we did installs with the other vendors. It took us a long time to get all that information into where all the APs were located, their config, all that stuff. And so once we've installed the access point, the students wanted to immediately start using it. And there was a period of usually 24 to 48 hours of install and configuration after the fact of getting that access point into that room. And we worked with Mist, and they developed an app that's on the phone for all of our techs to use. And so immediately they were able to claim that access point. We were able to install it using this new app and name it to its exact location. So within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, after installing the AP in the room, as long as it was on net, it was working. So we got a lot of students really excited about using our new wireless solution, not 24 or 48 hours after they'd been installed, but 5 to 15 minutes after the access was installed, they were able to experience the new wireless solution. We have hundreds of thousands of devices connecting to our wireless network at any one time throughout the United States. And so we have to monitor that all the time. And there's nothing worse than having a client call, or a student or a user call up and say, my Wi-Fi is not working, and not having the proof to back up why the wireless is working and how to address those problems. And as Jeff talked about, these new monitors and AI that's built into the back end of the Mist system allows us to have great visibility of every client that's on our wireless network and be able to address those issues immediately. The reality is, since installing the first Mist implementation back in January, we've had very minimal even calls from students, because it's just always been working. The AI is solving those problems before they ever bubble up and cause a student to call us. That goes into answering calls. One of the things that have kind of separated us away from the other MSPs is we tell our clients that we're at fault. We're going to solve their problems. That immediately relieves a lot of stress on both the end users as well as the property owners of these properties. They don't want to be the tech expert. They want you to be the tech expert and solve their problems. So when you say, we're going to take care of them, we're to blame, we're responsible for it, that resolves a lot of these issues. Next, we want to have a live person answer those calls as much as possible. When somebody is calling for tech support, they're already upset. It took them extra time to call that number and to talk to somebody. In today's world, they're already kind of ticked off. So you want to have a live person saying, thank you for calling us. We want to solve your problems, and that immediately relaxes that client or user so that you can come to a quick resolution. And then I know that it's redundant, but always be honest with the callers. If there's a widespread outage, tell them. Tell them that exactly what the problem is. Maybe you have a network switch that's down and you're waiting for a tech to get out there to replace it. Tell them exactly what's going on. It solves a lot of problems right there. They know that there can be issues, and when you are honest, it makes it incredibly helpful. And next, techniques to troubleshoot through automation. Again, this AI is incredible. I love the fact that we can look back and see how our wireless LAN is working for an extended period of time. We've had this thing for wired ports for a long time. We just haven't had something like this for the wireless LAN really until Mist. I was always looking for another solution for the last 5 years to do exactly what Mist is saying and actually doing right now. It allows us to continuously monitor all of the devices and have that historical data to help us on the back end. Next, make sure that you do your homework before, during, and after the installation is put into place. When you know what's going on, you're going to keep your cost under control. Do predictive wireless surveys. Have as much information as possible. Just like Mist is doing a great job of helping us predict the future of our wireless LANs, data is incredibly valuable. And the more data that we can grab, the better decisions we're going to make. And along there, when I'm doing on-site visits to do my homework, I'm being as nosy as possible. I'm looking in closets. I'm trying to discover everything I know about that wired LAN as well as the existing wireless LAN, why they want to move to another solution, and how we can make this solution as perfect as possible. Know your environment that you're serving. And some of the tricks that we've learned is that wireless is usually not at fault. It's usually the wired port or the wire in the walls, especially on existing builds, that is the fault. And we've trained our techs. We buy all of our techs one of the Fluke link runner so that they can see exactly what's wrong with the wired ports and be able to address those so that we can get them fixed so the wireless works. Anyway, I'll turn it back and I'll be glad to answer any questions after the meeting. I think, Mike, you're up. Alice, you're up.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Anderson, and I head up the MIST channel organization, and I am very happy to have this opportunity to speak to you. So I think just over the next few slides, I want to give you just a little color on the MIST channel program and some key elements behind that. But first and foremost, why partner with MIST? And really, what we are doing with our MSP Wireless as a Service program is helping our partners stand up and find more routes to revenue. What we are finding in the marketplace is that customers want to buy differently. They want to move away from this CapEx, high management infrastructure, to where they're pulling from their operational budget, and they just want something that works. They want someone to come in who's the expert and make it work. In addition to that, developing a recurring revenue model. We all know that when a recurring revenue model is implemented, the lifetime value of that customer drastically, exponentially increases. In addition, in today's world, differentiation is key. So building an MSP service product, something that you can wrap your brand around, can help elevate you and differentiate your business from the other vendors that are out there. Some of the key elements of MIST. Our program is a flat rate, margin-rich pricing model. In fact, our partners who are currently participating in our MSP program are providing feedback that they're making 20x the margin points under the MIST model as opposed to the very competitive, overly distributed model of many of our legacy competitors that are out there. In addition, we're helping you build your brand, increasing your brand equity with your clients in your market through white labeling options. In addition, lowering your operational expense on managing a customer or a customer segment through your MSP offering through simplifying deployment through our machine learning mechanics. Also, implementing SLEs and be able to manage your customer's mobile experience through a single pane of glass. Even more, we are enabling our partners the ability to build out additional products and applications on the API foundation of the MIST offering. Again, separating yourself from everybody else out there and assisting your customer by solving a particular use case. What is our program? MIST has a parent channel program that includes a reseller model. We all know what that is. We also have the MIST MSP program to service our wireless as a service partners. It's structured into 2 partner levels, each providing a level of benefits and requirements to allow our partners to differentiate themselves. On this slide to the right, you'll notice the discounts. And as I mentioned, our partners are making massive margin driving the market with a MIST-powered wireless as a service product. Some of the benefits that we have to enable you. Number 1, we have a dedicated channel account team that is there to support you on everything MIST. We have technical resources, both here at the corporate office who are by their phones ready to help you with any sort of deployment questions, as well as people in the field that you can align with. A partner portal is a very rich resource library of everything MIST, videos, white papers, data sheets, technical write-ups, and we are adding to that each and every single day. MIST University, you have technical people, you want to ensure that they are empowered to help you drive with your business. We have the MIST University to certify them. And of course, we're here to partner with you and hold hands with you to drive to market success. And we have marketing resources and would love to talk to you how we can jointly work together to go create additional demand. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Back to the CRN tool.
Excellent. Mike, thank you so much. That was great. And thank you also to Shane and to Jeff. Just excellent presentation. We got a lot of questions to get through, so let's go to the Q&A portion of the event. I'm not surprised that we got a lot of questions, given how great this presentation was. It's not too late to submit questions, though, so please do so using the Q&A box in the bottom left-hand corner. Thank you to those of you who have already submitted a question. And remember, we will get back to you via email after the event if we don't get to your question now, but let's see how many of these we can take. We got a bunch of great ones. Let's start with a thorny issue, which is probably for Jeff or maybe Shane if you've had some experience with this in your installation. But how do you handle the difficult install in existing buildings where ceilings are sealed and cable runs are difficult to run to individual rooms?
Shane, I think that's probably up your alley, so I'll let you run with that.
I'm happy to do that. That's a very difficult question. A lot of times you're stuck by doing the wired mold. One of the tricks that we've found is in a lot of these buildings that have been built around between 1990 and earlier, many of them have Cat5 wire that was ran for the telephone systems in these apartments. And we've been nobody uses those telephone wires anymore. They're all going back to the data closets in most cases. And we've been able to use that telephone wire, that existing telephone wire, and re-terminate it for Cat5. I know that the standard is Cat6 and Cat7, now Cat8. But Cat5 still works really well, and if you can terminate it correctly and you teach your installers how to use it, that can be at least a stopgap because that wire is already in the wall and you can use it. You also want to make sure that it's okay with the building owners, that they're not going to be using that telephone for any other reason, and you can use that. Other than that, you're stuck with the limitations of wired mold to get around running cable in closets and any other dead space in the place to try to hide it as best you can. Does that help answer it?
Sure. Jeff, do you want to jump in on that, or do you think that that pretty much covers it?
No, I think that's pretty good. Again, Shane's got more of the hands-on installation experience, so I'll defer to him as the expert on that one.
That's great.
Bottom line is you've got to get that wire in the correct location so that the wireless does work correctly.
Great. Thank you, Shane. Let's move to another hot button issue. This is one that's on the minds of a lot of people lately. How does Mist ensure privacy of customer data? I would assume, Jeff, you might want to take that.
Yeah, I could take that. So that's a good question. It does come up, especially with a cloud-based environment. So there's a couple ways to answer that. So for starters, when we talk about we are moving over 100 states every few seconds into the cloud, that's all metadata. So we actually don't store or move personal data in there. It's only the headers and not the payload itself is number one. And then number two is it is also encrypted inside the cloud. So there's kind of various levels of redundancy around that. And so to be clear, we've gone through security audits for some of our biggest customers, the top retailers in the world, top financial institutions, top social media companies, and we've come out clear on that both here and in Europe and in other domains. So we take privacy very, very seriously, and by using the modern cloud, we're able to handle that.
Oh, cool. Thanks, and thanks everyone. We're getting tons of new questions in. Really appreciate that. Question for you, Mike. Can we get discounted APs to trial and demo the Mist solution?
The answer to that is yes. Our authorized partners do have the benefit of procuring our NFR systems. It's actually a kit that's composed of 3 of our top line APs where they can get it at a discounted rate for deployment and internal use.
Okay, great. Here's another question. If internet is unavailable, is internal connectivity still possible between local wireless devices and the local network? Another great question.
Yeah, maybe I'll take that one. I know, Shane, you may have had experience with that too, but the answer is yes. So if you lose your internet connectivity, the access points still continue to function. Obviously, you can't get updates from the cloud or kind of move some of the analytics back and forth, but it was designed to continue to operate in a normal functioning environment if you do lose connectivity to the cloud or the internet.
Cool. And here's another question. What are your international expansion plans into the UK and Europe?
So I'm guessing they're not asking you that, Shane. I think you're more focused on the U.S. market. So I guess I'll answer that too. So we are actually currently in Europe right now. We're actually literally in the process right now. We've built out a European team. We actually have the head of it Europe is already in Germany, and he's putting folks in place. We have him in Germany, Benelux already in place in Southern Europe, with UK coming actually very soon, in the next couple of weeks. So we're actively progressing into Europe, and we're already in Japan, and we're already in ANZ as the other major markets there. So we're in the process of major expansion right now.
Great.
I'm also in the process of expanding into Mexico. So I've got a partner down there that's really interested in doing MSPs down there, so that might be an option as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Shane.
Fantastic. Another question, do you sell AP hardware to the MSP partner as a CAPEX or OPEX purchase?
CAPEX access, basically leasing versus...
Yeah, so there's multiple vehicles that we do to enable our partners to procure the product. So right now it is a capital expense. They do procure the product. It pays for itself many, many times over. We also work with distribution here in North America and abroad to offer leasing programs to make that more palatable. And we also have some very interesting programs that will be more of an operational OPEX type structure as we progress down the road that we'll announce shortly.
Great. Wow, I really appreciate all these questions. This is incredible. Let's keep going with them because we've got a little more time for sure. In the wireless as a service model, do you find that your resellers are typically charging the customers for the AP and creating the recurring revenue just from service?
In our model, that is not a true MSP. That's more of we have resellers that are reselling that, and they do manage that product for a subscription fee. That still would fall under our reseller partner program. But our wireless as a service MSP program is really to enable that partner to go in with a fully packaged subscription base that includes hardware and services. So they are independent.
And Shane, maybe, I don't know if you want to talk to how you kind of price your service or kind of how you're rolling it out, because I think that might be useful as well.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. One of the things that when I meet with owners of apartment complexes and nursing homes and these places, they have very flat income sources or revenue sources, and they can't afford great big CapEx expenditures because they know exactly how much money they're bringing in. But if they have a flat fee that they can charge and pass on to a tenant or a user, they know how they can recap that money. And so in my model, we do it on a full model in the sense that we go in there and we say, this is how much it's going to cost you for every bed in your unit, given how much it's going to cost us to install it. That may be $8 a bed, that may be $15 a bed, depending on how much bandwidth we do it. But there's no install fee, there's no construction fee, there's no maintenance fees, anything like that. It's just one fee. It covers everything, and it's measured on a per bed basis.
Great answer. Here's another great question. Can the Mist platform be integrated with any commercial or home automation units?
Yeah, I could talk to that. I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about in terms of home automation, but I'll maybe talk to this at a broader level. So one of the interesting things about our platform, especially the AP family, is that it's Wi-Fi, BLE, and IoT. So there's actually an IoT port for integration with various types of things. So, for example, we have one customer that's looking to do conference room scheduling and directions to open conference rooms with tie-in to the thermostat to adjust the thermostat based upon the attendees' preference for temperatures. Or similarly, we have a hospital that's looking to tie in location tracking with motion sensors So if they need to figure out is it an infusion pump in a clean room or outside of a clean room, and if it's next to a wall, it's very difficult to tell which side of the wall it's on. The motion sensor is a tiebreaker. Or similarly, we have a mall out in Miami that's looking to tie in. If you take a defibrillator off the wall, it can kind of potentially track that location and turn on a video camera. So we do have the ability to tie in from that standpoint to anything that can plug into an IoT port. There's that, and so I'll leave it there because I think that's kind of the gist of that question, and that's the best I can answer that.
Oh, very good. And here's a nice brass tacks question. This is for Shane. Have you quantified the cost savings of using a cloud Wi-Fi solution versus on-premises?
Yes and no. We haven't got a firm number. This is kind of just my gut telling me. I don't see any immediate savings one way or another. However, the savings is the ongoing support and keeping all of that updated and current. With an on-premise system, you've got a lot of maintenance and a lot of truck rolls going out there and making sure that's refreshed and working at its optimal capabilities. Where this one, it's always going to be latest state of the art. It's got all of the updates. It's got all of the bug fixes on immediately, and that's what I love about the Mist system. Is that when there is an issue of any sort, we've been able to reach out to the support team there at Mist, and they've been able to answer all of our questions to the nth degree, much more so than any other vendor we've ever even worked with. We feel like we're the only user on the Mist system, because when we call up to Mist with a question, they treat us like we're the premier end-all source of their attention. So we really appreciate that.
That's really nice to hear. Okay, another question. For Bluetooth engagements, wayfinding and proximity messaging, is that only app-based?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that. Primarily, yes. Primarily, it does require an application running the Mist SDK and connecting with other third-party devices. And that's one of the things about BLE is it does take an ecosystem. For example, for wayfinding, you need an app. You need mapping software, potentially. You need some of those other things as well as our API. For proximity-based messaging, you may need an advertising platform. But yeah, primarily we like to say that that's a good test to see if one of your customers is real about this. Do they have an app, or are they in the process of creating an app? And that shows that this isn't a science project. That having been said, there's some minor variants that you can do using just Eddystone URLs, where you technically don't need an app, but that's lower functionality. For now, I would assume most of what you guys would want to do is app-based. For the engagement, for the asset visibility, that's not an app. If you just want to do beaconing functionality, that's not an app necessarily. And some of the analytics, that you don't need an app for some of the Wi-Fi and BLE analytics.
Great. Another question that's probably for Mike. Do you have a cap on how many resellers per region? Do you also have distributors partners?
So I will answer the second first, kind of flip that. Yes, Mist does go to market through distribution in certain regions of the world. Here in the U.S., we do have a distributor that is about 3 months into the partnership. We do have distribution in Japan and are very close to launching distribution in EMEA, Australia, and New Zealand. So more to come on that front. Regarding caps on certain markets, our philosophy is that we do not want to be like some of those legacy vendors where every single opportunity you are in, you have 6 other folks that sell the same thing you're competing with. We're being smart, and that's why we're looking for strong partners that really commit and are willing to hold hands with us to go to market. And if we, based on the successes that we have, does determine really how dense we go with certain partners within particular regions. So I hope that answers it, but that's our posture at this stage.
Okay, very good. Here's another great question that's sort of logistics. This probably is for Shane. How many support engineers are required for your typical Mist Wi-Fi installation? Really great practical question.
Yes, it is. We usually take between 6 and 8 installers to go on site. We're usually installing between 150 to 200 APs on a property, and that usually gives us a chance to get out there, get to work, and we work around the clock when we're doing it. As soon as they let us in there, we're working nonstop until they kick us out. But one of the tips, especially in student housing, is never go into an apartment alone. I said that in my presentation, but I can't overstress it. Always have that protection there, but it's always nice to have two-man teams, and whatever amount of teams you need to have to get in there, in and out of that property within 48 to 36 hours is optimal.
Okay, great. Shane, another question for you. How did you determine the best parameters for your Wi-Fi service levels?
In the beginning, trial and error. But as a general rule, we don't want to go through more than 2 walls at any one time. That makes it very simple for our techs to go out there and to see, is this wireless access point in the right spot? Can I hit every room or bedroom or place that I'm trying to get Wi-Fi to? Is it going through more than 2 walls? If that's the case, well, then I need to add another AP. That keeps it very simple for my techs. I'm going to do the wireless predictive maps and those things on the back side. I'm going to go out there and try to get other data, but as a general rule, 2 walls, new AP.
Okay, great. And let's try to get one more question in before we close. This is a good one. Jeff, Mike, you mentioned white labeling of the Mist solution. Could you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, white labeling is offered in several platforms. First, you can, in many cases, you can white label your logo in the user interface. So if there was a particular customer that did have a structured access to the Mist console, they could get white labeled there. Also, we have many MSP partners who are actually white labeling the access point and deploying their brand on the ceiling at their customer's premise. So those options are available specifically for our gold MSPs and on approval basis for our silver MSPs.
All right, excellent. That's a great way to close. That is all the time that we have today. Thank you again, everyone, for all your great questions. It just makes for a really great presentation. And in a moment, we'd like to take you to the Mist website so that you can learn more about today's topic. And also, I'd like to note this channelcast and its content are copyright 2017 by the Channel Company, LLC, or its affiliates. All rights are reserved, and all trademarks are the property of their respective owners. Any rebroadcast or redistribution of this channelcast or any portion thereof without the prior written consent of the Channel Company, LLC is prohibited. Now, I would like to thank each of you for attending today's channelcast brought to you by the Channel Company and Mist Systems, and also on behalf of our guests, Shane Moulton, Mike Anderson, Jeff Aaron, Gina Narcissi, and our entire virtual production team. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.